Toasty buns in the house, yo. We got some of that funky fresh. Hashtag run bis. Hashtag. I kind of need that shirt still.
You know what? Moran's came yesterday, right? Yeah. Yours hasn't come, Living's hasn't come, and the batch of 39 teas I ordered hasn't come. I don't know why. If it isn't here by tomorrow, I'm gonna call them and see what's up, because they were all ordered at the same time. I don't see why they're not here, and like Moran's is already out the door.
Damn, that's kind of that's pretty weird.
I agree, and I'm a good customer of theirs. I feel they should treat me better.
I agree, man.
Oh, dude, what'd you think of that straight out of Warcraft shirt?
Oh, that's pretty funny, man. That's some good stuff. I'd probably get one of those.
I'm sure I'm not the first one to think of it, but I was really proud of that thought. I think I actually might fix it up and order like a dozen or so tomorrow.
Dude, yeah, nice, man. There's some. We gotta get the tea game going again, man. We gotta start promoting the tea game again, man. We got a lot of the second wave of teas you got going on right now, dude. Is
I made all of those. I just don't want to order a whole bunch of them and not have them sell again. It's not cheap to order, I don't know, 100 or so T-shirts and not have them all sell.
Oh my gosh, yeah. EPH, yes. I gotta remind you after the cast on something.
Okay, all right. And was EPH the one beforehand that was able to make the stream today that normally can't?
Yeah.
Well, glad you're here to be with us on the cast, EPH. All right, can we get some confirmation that Buns is loud, clear, and up in your ear holes?
Yo, we out here straight out of Warcraft. Straight out of Duratar, bro.
That'd be funny, like straight out of Airy Peak. Straight out of the hollow.
Straight out the hollow. Actually, I saw...
No, it's straight out of apostrophe D-A hollow. Straight out of the hollow, yo.
Straight out the hollow. Straight out the hollow, bro. Did you see, do you look at the Twink box on Twink Info at all?
Every now and then.
Did you see that Merm's cooking up Bleeding Hollow shirt and sweatshirt?
He did. Or
dude, those look fun too.
Yeah, they look nice, man. They look nice. Well, I think... Yes, EPH. I am a Gingy. Gingys tend to be on the paler side of the spectrum. Alright, let us go do our thing. Alright, what episode number is this?
Has to be 107.
I guess so.
That makes it Season 3, Episode... Oh, shit. Maybe that's not right.
Alright, we'll just go with Season 3 of The Witch, but... hopefully it's better than a Nicolas Cage movie. And we're gonna just
No, it's season 3, episode 3? Question mark? I really want to find this out. It's gonna bother me a lot. Fuck. One time? I'm checking. It's 107. Right.
Alright.
Good.
Okay, so you got a Malto going?
We're Gucci, man. We're Gucci.
Alright, what up, y'all? Welcome to Season 3, Episode 3 of 15 with the Buns. As always, I am the man with the beanie, a.k.a. UB, joined by the Bieber haircut look-alike named...
Yo, straight out of Duratar, straight out the hollow, we got Toasty Buns coming at you live, yo.
Oh man, let's kick this off.
Let's kick
this out with some shout outs straight out of Airy Peak. First one's gonna go to Big Moran, who has a podcast going on. He just had his second episode yesterday, and it was a really, really good cast. I
saw him tweet about it.
Definitely check it out. He went over a tweet that Balamos made to Helinka and kind of the role that Twitter plays as players communicate with Blizzard and how kind of it should be interpreted by both sides and what a negative tweet really means, how to take it, and a whole bunch of other stuff. It was really interesting. He offered a lot of great insight. Check out his stream. It's twitch.tv/BigMoran. And I also want to give a shout out, which correlates to Big Moran, to Chops as well. Saturday, we had our first inaugural Dirty Nine cast. And for those of you who don't know what Dirty Nines are, that would be the 3 to the 9, yo! And we'll be having that come out every Saturday. If the stars align, this coming Saturday will be an EU-centric cast for the Dirty Nine scene, but we'll see what happens. And Buns, I will trade the mic over to you for your shout-outs.
Wow, I totally had a shout-out ready, but then you said the Big Moran cast, and I didn't catch the second one, but I actually caught his first cast, and I was listening for like 30 minutes, and he was talking about some really interesting stuff at high level. At endgame, he was talking about scaling at high level, and he was talking about specifically trinket procs getting scaling in arena, which was really something pretty interesting. Not the actual item getting scaled, but the proc off of trinkets or weapons was getting scaling at endgame. So definitely, yeah. So just reiterating on that, definitely big shout out there. You know, I'm gonna give a shout out to everyone that has made the twitch.tv/FearTheBuns computer toaster campaign a reality. So to everyone on stream that has helped donate to make sure that I'm able to get this new desktop computer that's going to be fully loaded, ready to go here in about a week or two, finalizing some of the details, and a huge thanks to Rise, Maniac, Never20, Yubi, DG, and a few other people from stream as well, giving me feedback here and there. So just a big shout out to everyone that's helped me get my computer put together, basically, because I am lost. But I do have, I will say this, I was really lost and I was really overwhelmed at first, but I got, I have an okay, I actually have an okay understanding now of what's going on. Like, I was actually able to, you know, I was telling Newbie when I first started, I'm like, dude, I don't even know what they're talking about, like, I don't know which means which, yada yada, and he's like, dude, you just kind of push through it. And I was like, fuck, and I was like,
are you telling me you didn't like my train analogy? I thought that was spot on.
Okay, well, I kind of, honestly, like, Maniac just, like, carried me so hard. He's, like, really helpful guy, really smart. He explained to me what I needed to get and why it was important that I got it and, like, what that does. And now it's just, like, I'm one of those people where I have to have it drilled into my head, like, what and why to really have a full understanding. So now I have a decent understanding, at least, of what I'm getting. So, yeah, just a big shout-out to everyone that's helped make that possible. It's a big deal, so I appreciate it a lot.
All right, and actually, I want to throw in one more. For those of you guys that don't check, you know, every thread on TI, or maybe don't visit TI that frequently, Merm has made a pretty badass hoodie that has a bleeding hollow. It almost looks like bloody bullet holes going through it. It's pretty badass, and he's got a Teespring campaign going for it, and I'm pretty sure it's already met, and if it's not met, it will be soon, but that doesn't mean you can't still order your shirt. So head over to TI. I'm not sure. I think it's in the site improvement section, but it's a thread. It's like Bleeding Hollow t-shirt, bracket managers, MVP. She just kind of does an outline of what's going on in the site, some changes, and the fact you can buy a badass t-shirt. And 100% of the proceeds for this t-shirt will go back into TI and also for upcoming tournaments, whatever the surplus is. So it's not like you're putting money back into the community's pocket by supporting Merm and supporting this hoodie. So please, if you can buy a hoodie, maybe you're in the market for a new hoodie, go ahead and get it. It's 36 bucks, which is pretty freaking cheap for a hoodie. So think about
yeah, it's got my approval factor there. You know, I'm not endorsing everything, but yeah, it's got some swag going. I will be copping up on definitely a tee or a hoodie. I was trying to find the link for it off the top of my head, but
yeah, if anyone watching right now can link that in on stream so people can see it, that'd be pretty sweet.
I definitely have the link to the campaign, but I don't have the link to the thread, I think. Oh man, I don't even have the link to the campaign because so many people overrid it in this chat box, so rip. Maybe, no, wait, I found it. Here it is.
All right, there we go. And in the meantime, Camo, That'll be coming out as soon as you come out with a proper design. And for those of you not watching, that's the UB Sucks t-shirt, which will be what, I heart with a slash through it, UB underneath. What do you think about that, Buns?
Wait, what? I zoned out hard. I found the link.
Not important. All right, let's
I Heart UB shirt?
No, the anti-I Heart UB t-shirt with a slash through the heart.
Why anti-I Heart
Because Camo's upset I'm going to beat him in the Fantasy 39 League and the Fantasy 19 League. When you're scared, you got to come through with such threats, and that's understandable.
Oh, man.
All right, let's move past that. Let's power through. Let's get into the meat of the cast, Buns, which has a little bit to do to gear, a little bit to do with twinking, and possibly how they play with each other.
Yeah, so, I mean, today we're going to talk about, this is a topic that I cover a lot with newer people on stream that are usually coming in for the first or second time, just getting a feel for what we're doing on the stream. We're talking about gearing and the accessibility of being able to get that gear. And also, it's not just really what it is we're going to talk about how gearing has changed and what that means in the present, past, and now. And future, maybe even. Present, past, now, future. That's 4. I gotta cut one of those back. Who knows?
Wait, one of them is going to be Back to the Future, so we'll add that in there. How's that?
That's the future. Dun, 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 dun. I would say that, so one of the appeals, why don't we start here, right? So one of the appeals for a lot of older players back in Vanilla and BC, Wrath, probably there's your extent. Wrath's probably pushing it a little bit. That's starting to get BOA era. Was having a tune that not only you got to embody and customize what class you were playing, what talent specs you were going. The talent specializations was all different back then, so you had a lot of things different in that aspect. But the availability to get all this rare gear, manage your XP, decide what items is which one you want to use, yada yada. So it was pretty cool in the sense that, you know, hey, if you're someone that wants to design your tune to have everything best in slot, you're in good shape, man. If you put the time and effort into manage your XP, figure out what gear was best, get that gear, still have enough XP to stay at level 19 without leveling, you know, there's a lot to be said for that. But we've shifted every expansion. We've shifted farther away from that aspect for lower level PvP, and it's been reorganized and re-geared towards having the accessibility of BOAs and being able to make tunes faster with BOAs and being able to have tunes made ready to go with a full set of gear whenever you need it. And I mean, at this point, it's really gotten to pretty much a full set of gear. I think you're only missing bracers, gloves, belt, boots. They even have rings now. Like, yeah, I mean, the slots are narrowing down.
I guess I'm not sure if I want to go too far in this, but I guess one thing would be, it seems like there's kind of a big divide amongst people in that how much weight do you put on the gear in the amount of time it took to acquire it? And like you were saying, there was actually sort of a skill involved if you were playing pre-3.2, where it's like, dude, I'm going to need this from Wailing Caverns. I'm going to need to run these quests. I need to allot the experience that I gain. I mean, there'd be people that would break it down, like, you know, spreadsheet style science. Yeah. Be like, I have this much XP, I have this much stuff I need to get. And then for other things, like, say, the Furbog pouch, people got creative. Well, we're going to have one buddy who, I guess, what, at that time, you know, level 70, 80, 60, whatever it was, we're all going to die. Put him on follow, and he's gonna run laps right outside the Furbog pouch dude for a couple hours. We're gonna get the rep. It's gonna be slow, but we're gonna get the rep, and we're gonna be able to get the Furbog pouch
in ghost form too, right?
Yeah,
you had to do that. So you didn't. Yeah, you didn't pick up the experience.
Because there's no way you could do it otherwise.
Yeah, and it was tough back then too. Actually, killing those things was a pain in the ass back then. I mean, now it's, hey, you can get that done in 20 minutes. Like it's.
But you can turn off your XP now too, you know? It's
yeah. it's not that big of a deal anymore, right? So there's a lot of factors going in there, and specifically one thing that I remember, I remember, but it wasn't necessarily something that I was good at or had a full understanding at the time, but there was also certain quests that you would do at certain levels to maximize the required experience that you were getting to progress towards your build, towards your 19 Twink build. So it's not like, you know, if someone's sitting at level 15, it's not like they were sitting there at that point in the forest killing boars like our good friend Cartman. They're using their experience a little more wisely.
They do not have the sword of power.
Yeah. They're using their experience a little bit more wisely and try to get the best bang for their buck for their gear. Because it was a pain in the ass. If you fucked up, man, if you fucked up, you fucked up. You have to start a new tune. Like, if you miss Inferno Orb or something like that and you were someone that really cared for getting it, it was pretty hard on certain classes like Shaman to really get everything you wanted in the level range.
Yeah, like what if you wanted Glacial Stone or something like that? Like all these things that people kind of forget about now, but I mean, they were legit back in the day. Or like Screecher's Belt for a hunter, or God, so many things that, I mean, I've just been lost over the years to faulty memory and just, you know, not thinking about it in however long.
And you know, one of the crazy things that goes with that, literally, is the idea that over the expansions, gear stats have turned over, they've been increased, they've been decreased, certain stats have been taken out of the game, certain stats have replaced other stats on gear at 19. So it's crazy, too, as we go from patch to patch, expansion to expansion, to see certain items that come up from being obtainable to Wrath, from BC to Vanilla, to even present day that just go from being best in slot to not even used, or from being not even used to being like, holy cow, this guy's got a Dead Skull shield lying around, he's got Juke Braids lying around, like, oh my gosh, I'll pay hundreds of bucks for that tune. Or right now, I'll tell you one of the big things right now in this meta is having a lot of people who play casters are looking for old tunes with Mind Thrust Bracers with the 13 spell power enchant that's grandfathered. So there's always something that's churning around that gets kicked back up when patches change, when new content comes in, because, you know, as well as Blizzard does, they never always have it perfect. And there's always some little glitches that people, especially like low-end Twinks who are trying to maximize their stats, you know, they're going to sniff out.
And it's also kind of interesting to think about how much, like, that grandfathered gear, the importance of it changes over expansions. But not only that, the difference between the impact of, say, Jute Braids at 19 or those Mind Thrusts with that grandfathered spell power to, say, at 39s now, well, like, there's some enchants. I believe there's an attack power enchant to Bracers, obviously, like that 13, and 15 strength to Gloves. But it doesn't have the same impact, I would say, because if you're like, say, right now you're making a caster at 39s.
Okay.
There are very few things that I can think of off the top of my head where I'd be like, fuck, I wish I had that. Like Rain Strider leggings used to be amazing if you got those. But now it's like, yeah, I'll get BOAs. Like, the one thing I have out of all the gear on my chamois, Fez cap not included, that's for Mog purposes, is the Dead Man's Hand. But that's the only piece of gear, caster related, like specifically caster. I'm not including Title Charm or things like that, where I'm like, whew, I am really freaking glad I have that. So different brackets will be affected differently by those that affect. Oh, Nikosi brings up a great point. Glyphs that are grandfathered. And the one he stated is Poly, which is huge.
Oh, yeah. That is massive at that level.
Pretty obvious reasons, but for anyone that isn't aware of what that is, maybe they don't play a mage or they don't do PvP that much, what the polyglyph does is remove dots on the target that's being polyed. So the difference between someone that has the polyglyph and doesn't have the polyglyph could be someone staying in that sheep for the full duration or popping out in a second or two, which I'm sure you guys can kind of realize that could be huge in a BG, and just think if you're playing arenas. I mean, that's pretty freaking significant.
Absolutely, and that's kind of another one of those areas, how we're talking about, like, you know, things just churn up, and, you know, some things just get discovered in patches and expansions. They come up, you know, glyphs in this case, you know, grandfathered glyphs. Like, what, dude? Like, who would have thought the glyphs out of everything would become grandfathered?
Yeah,
but now, like, there's something to be said for having that.
Think of that with gear, but in a sense, your glyphs, I mean, they're an add-on to your gear, kind of, I guess.
Right, yeah, absolutely. And it's just, there's just a lot of little niche things that usually come up in different expansions and different time periods of the game that become very powerful and accessible to have. And maybe where we can start talking about, and maybe going down the road too, is like, how big of a deal is it to have a grandfathered tune versus non-grandfathered tune right now, and maybe even looking back to the past before as well too, just to give some comparisons?
Well, I would say in the past, having a grandfather tune was significantly more impactful. And I can think of no better bracket to drive this point home than the 29s. You would have enhanced shamans, or say rogues, that had what we called the skill breaker, which was the skull breaker for everyone that knows it. It was grandfathered. You could have a mongoose enchant on it, and you would hit so noticeably different with that it was really, really frowned upon. Like, it was steroids. You just don't use that shit in the community.
Steroids.
And there was another weapon, the skill splitter. I know we were super creative with our names, which was the nail splitter for hunters, which was similar. It was this ridiculously high level thing. It got removed from was it Razor Friend Downs, or I forget which one it was, but one of them one of those two, where Razor Friend Crawl, where you could go grab it, and then when I believe Kata hit, it was no longer obtainable, and the item level skyrocketed up, but the on use when you could equip level stayed the same. And it was crazy. Like, the difference between a tune having one of those two items and not,
big deal.
Yeah, it was huge. It's like someone coming into a football game with brass knuckles and uppercutting your fucking lineman, and it's like, all right, dude, we're good. And yeah, Rise brings it up. Nail Splitter was so good that it was best in slot for people that were at 39. I mean, to give you guys an idea of how strong that weapon was.
That's pretty crazy.
But now that you have scaling come into effect, it negates a lot of those items. So you have things like Nail Splitter that used to be great, but not so much anymore. And you can even backtrack it further to where what made a lot of these things so strong were the eye level that they contain. So it's like eye level 35 plus could take things like Mongoose. What was it? Patch 5.4, I believe, removed the eye level requirement and made anything be able to get anything. Scaling be damned, it was going to take it, whether it scaled properly or not. And that did a lot to kind of balance out the difference between grandfathered and non-grandfathered weapons. And then you fast forward to now, and that difference is even further diminished by the scaling of both your character and the gear that your character is wearing. You can go there and there. I'm done.
I think that for me right now, yeah, I think you hit on the head. I think scaling is a huge part of it. There's items that have, you know, let's talk current, because I mean, that's kind of where we are.
Yeah.
Scaling's been changed a few times, and it's finally gotten adjusted to the point where here we are. And we're talking about next expansion, it being changed again, probably, with how they're going to do the PvP system. We'll see. I mean, maybe not. I don't know, but it sounds like there's going to be some changes at least. But where we are right now, I think especially for the 19 bracket, it's not such a big deal that you necessarily have grandfathered gear. But I would go as far to say that this is a whole different avenue. I would go as far to say that it is a big deal for a lot of classes at 19 to have double faction gear. And that's something that we haven't touched on yet either.
No, that's yeah.
Because classes like, well, cloth caster classes or boomkins, you probably want to start Horde. Get the merger boots. Get your acquisition bracers, or uninsured bracers rather. Get, pulling a blank. Get your Wild Rider's gloves. That was not the item I was looking for. Get your Ring of Pardons. Get your Stillwater Signet. There we go. You get
What about Seal of Argus and things of that?
Right, and you get double Seal of Argus as well too, which is one of the, if not the biggest reason why you do it. Which sounds so goofy because it's 1 or 2 stats, but
still,
I mean,
if you want to be pissed, you got to be pissed.
Right. And then you have those extra rings lying around as well too, kind of as secondary rings that you can use for maybe another set or different enchants. Like I know for me on my when I'm playing a druid, if I have money lying around, I like to have my main set of gear have double Argus with either haste or versatility. Haste if I'm playing Boomkin, versatility if I'm playing DPS or Resto Druid. DPS is in Feral, which I don't, but I mean you go verse. And then if I'm playing, you know, then I take it and say like, okay, well if I'm playing a Boomkin, I'm gonna have double haste on my Seal of Argus because that's my main set and I want that to be best in slot. So my backup rings, which are still really viable at that point, my Stillwaters and my Ring of Pardons, I can chuck versatility on that and have 5 stam on both those rings, and I'm still in great shape if we're just talking about having the stamina for FCing, because that's still best in slot, it's still 5 and 5. And then being able to decide like, you know, and at this point, I got all this gear, maybe I want a faction, get double Argus, get Hovel Digger bands, a lot of different items. And it's going to be different depending on what you're building, but there's also now, I think that the importance of being, I'll say this, if you have generic BOA gear with the correct enchants, and then you get generic dungeon gear, you're fine. You can Q19s. I mean, you're talking about having, let's talk about a generic class. Let's talk about a hunter. Head slot BOA, neck slot BOA, shoulder BOA, cloak BOA, chest BOA, bracers, Black Wolf bracers. That's not hard to come by. Chuck 5 stam on them. Yeah. Gloves of the Fang. 1% drop off of Druids of the Fang, which sounds AIDS, but it's really not. I mean, there's like 10 or 20 of them.
I feel like those pop out on the auction house all the freaking time.
Right. Chuck 9 stam on those. There you go. Your belt. Get a dungeon belt. You're going to be running dungeons anyways for that gear. You'll probably get...
The dungeon belt's going to be awful. Let's not kid here.
I have good luck on Hunter. I have really good luck getting a bandit belt, but I know Yubi's 20 Hunter would say differently.
I would say go 1-1 monkey and call it.
Well, actually, I think that Yubi's 20 Hunter didn't see the light of day of dungeons after, like, the 3rd dungeon.
That might also be true.
So, you know, then you're talking about BOA legs. Okay, you need boots. Feet of the Lynx, Cobran's boots from Wailing Caverns, the 555 boots from Darkshore questline. Pop on your double signet, or double signet of Argus, Seal of Argus, BOA trinkets. You're not talking about a lot of crazy hard gear you have to get, especially from a 19 bracket. I mean, yes, you could take that exact gear and be like, hey, I want to have, and let's make this comparison. Let's say, hey, I want to have an AP-based hunter with max AP. Really go all out. Okay, well, there's options for you to spend a fuck ton of money to have a really geared tune. You could start Goblin, get Thrall's bracers, put the Agi enchant on them, which is going to give you...
Is that not like kind of example A or patient 0 for things that scale well?
Oh, yeah. Thrall, yeah. That is really... You know what? I'll say this. At 19, there's really not a lot of gear that gets great scaling. That's an exception. And it just has to do with the fact that, hey, the items are only going to scale to 24, and we're 19, so how much gear is available where we can really take advantage of the gap differential and catching up? There's just not that much.
Expand that point to 39s, there's a lot of gear that scales.
Yeah.
You definitely want to check Twink info in the 39 forum, the armory section, or go to bisnation.net and check the guides. This is gonna sound strange, but you might want to wear the lizard scale cloak if you're playing an Agi class. You're gonna want the Scarlet Monastery rings, and this is gonna break some people's brains over underworld bands.
Wow.
It makes the gearing process immensely easier. And this actually kind of gets into something I want to get to soon, and you can get you back to what you were saying after this. And I'm going to be kind of sounding like a hypocrite as I say this, but I'm going to miss my underworld bands. But you'll see why I'm being a hypocrite as this conversation progresses.
Okay. I think you're going to miss your hypocrite bands because you can... Well, no. Let's wait. There might be a few things. So, okay, so what were we talking about? I was talking about 1900 build. So, we gave you a very generic gear outline. Oh, and BOA gun. I missed that. BOA gun. There you go. Chuck flintlocks on it. That's the only thing that's kind of a pain in the ass about 1900. You have to get a flintlocks. It's... Yeah, it really is that much better than all the other scopes, which requires you to have like an 85, 80 hunter.
If I want to be Legolas, can I put that on the bow and arrow, or is that just not acceptable behavior?
You can, but, I mean, you might as well just put on a gun because it's better and then mog it to a bow. Swag. Get that Venom Blade out there. Or the Venom Strike or whatnot. Okay, anyways, straying from the point. Generic hunter build. That's one of the easiest class at 19 to gear. That's not hard. There's nothing really difficult there. You might drop maybe 5k on that. Not that, you're not talking about that much gold. And that's not that much gold right now. Let's be real. That's nothing. That's dropping, like, barely anything. And that's saying that your BOAs aren't enchanted. But let's say, hey, I want to go full AP hunter. I want to spend money. I want to have best in slot AP. What can I do? Well, I'll tell you. You can start Goblin, get Thrall's Bracers. Well, let's work the other way. No, that's fine. Okay, so we'll start Bracers. Bracers, Thrall's Bracers, get attack power on those. Gloom Shroud armor, chest or whatnot, which is a very rare BOE from Shadowfang Keep, going from like 150 to 300k gold, usually. You're going to drop some money on that for like 2 Agi. Glowing Lizard Scale Cloak. Throw on the BOA Shoulders. Warsong Necklace. BOA Helmet. Then you would go Gloves of the Fang. Defias Belt. You're going to drop some money on Defias Belt if you're going to go that route for the 7
edge. I got a couple
edge.
for sale on Airy Peak if anyone's interested.
Damn! Then you're talking about going BOA Legs with, and this is a big deal, you have to get the leather working at endgame, which requires you to have a main with 400 leather working for the best in slot Agi, which gives you 4 Agi, 3 crit, because that's probably going to be your best option if you actually go through all the math, if you can get that enchantment on it. Then you go Feet of the Lynx, and then you have to go Double Signet of Argus. So you're talking about starting Goblin, buying all of those items that we just talked about, and faction changing. And you could even want to go back and play Horde. You could sit there and be like, hey, I want to go back and play Horde. You're still gonna have to start Goblin if you want to get Thrall's Bracers. You have to start on the island to get that quest line. You know what I mean? Like, so even if you want to play a Blood Elf Hunter, you can't start Blood Elf. That's how it is.
If only there was an original idea for someone to figure out how to get there. I feel like some way, somehow, someone will figure out how to get there.
No, there is. There's definitely ways that you can get there, and it's definitely not. It's definitely exploiting or taking advantage of the system. But I don't totally understand how it works. But I have heard of a few people pull it off.
Yeah, there's an original thinker out there somewhere that I'm sure will figure out how to do so. But we digress. I'm sorry. Continue.
No, so I was just talking about, now let's compare the two, right? So here we have generic hunter build A, who probably has somewhere to like 300 to 400 more health, more crit, and you have generic, and then you have specifically AP build hunter gear 2. Spend a ton of money in real life and in game getting items. getting factions, getting best in slot for AP build, has, I don't know, maybe 10 to 15 more attack power than your generic hunter build. No, I'd probably say 15 more attack power than your generic hunter build.
Okay.
For all of that, while losing crit and health, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. Like, that's arguably not even best in slot. You know what I'm saying? So, the point I wanted to make out of all of this is there are ways that you can spend a fuck ton of money in this game to deck out your toon to have max of X stat. And yeah, there's something to be said about that, and it can work. It's not that it's not viable, but it's not necessarily best because you're losing other stats in other areas. You have less health. Health's valuable. You're losing crit. So it depends, man. You can get by right now in this expansion with having very generic gear. In my opinion, very generic builds. And there's something... for me personally, I love that, and I touched on that recently. I love that because if I want to try a new class that I don't have to feel like I'm going to be, you know, at a huge disadvantage, or I'm going to have to chuck up a ton of money to be able to play this class on a level with everyone else just because of gear deficit or, you know, whatnot, enchant deficit or whatnot. But yeah, it's a big deal, man. To me, like, I like that. I like being able to make a toon, being able to level him up quickly, even though it's a little bit, you don't feel like your toon's value, like your toon's personal value to me, goes down a lot because of BOAs, because it's like, I didn't really work to get these BOAs. You know, I've had them forever, I've got enchants on them, I'm just sending them over to another toon, like yada yada.
I don't know, do you remember getting BOAs back in the day? I felt like there was some work involved, especially if you had to get, like, I remember,
right.
And I know, Rise, you're listening, how many times did you get the freaking Blessed Hammer and Grace or the Devout Ore Stone Hammer on 6 different servers? And I know it's not the same, but it's just, actually it really isn't even remotely the same, but I just wanted to point out that single fact of annoyance in my life at one point.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Where?
Well, no, actually,
okay.
you were about to go on a tangent, or not a tangent, I'm sorry. You're about to follow it over, but I want to directly pose this question to you.
Sure.
Do you feel that the ease of gearing that we're experiencing now, and I don't want to talk about Legions just yet, we can later, but just the ease of gearing right now, do you feel it diminishes, as you said, the worth, or let's even take it a step further, I really kind of want to say the emotional investment that you have in your character?
Absolutely. 100%. There are... Yeah. And you said it right now, but I'm going to have to take it back in expansion to make a point.
Okay.
I'm going to take it back in expansion to make a point. Well, this kind of holds up to now. My favorite toons, character-wise, are my free-to-plays, without question. The only toon that weighs a stone next to my free-to-plays is my 19 Mage, and that's because I have grandfathered gear from back way when, how long I play the tube. I've got Tabard of the Frost on him. That's probably going to go down as my favorite toon just because of how long I've had him and some of the items that I have that are really rare and you can't get anymore. Which there's that factor as well there too. My free-to-play is a different story. My free-to-play, you know, I had to grind out the BOAs. You had to grind out the gear. You had to actually get drops and then win the drops to get the gear. You had to grind chests. You had to farm chests to get your items. Then you have to level up your own enchanting, level up your professions correctly, save armor kits in the bank so you can put them on while you have another profession, and you get an item later down the road. Save enchants in your bank so that when, hey, I got a new pair of boots, I actually have something to throw on them and I don't have to re-level enchanting. So there's just so much investment into a free-to-play, having a completely decked out toon. And then on top of that, my warrior looks like a beast. Like, damn, dude, like that toon is my favorite toon. My 20 free-to-play warrior, without question, is my favorite toon.
Was that the first Fear the Buns?
That was the first Fear the Buns. No, it wasn't. That was not the first Fear the Buns. The first Fear the Buns was on Korgath Alliance. My 20 warrior on Ursun's actually called Fear Thy Buns.
Oh, jeez.
Fear Thy Buns. Yep.
And you know what?
So it was number 2.
As you're talking about, like, the 20 free-to-play thing, I know a lot of people that share your sentiment. And I know Chops, I believe Rise, this actually is what got me to finally be like... like Biggie and other people, like, God, just come over here and play inside. So I'm like, it seems like so much work. I don't want to do this. It's just so much easier. Can I go pay to play and just do it that way? And they're like, no, it's like making your first tune all over again. It's like almost rediscovering that first love. And I'm like, all right, whatever.
Oh my.
And so it's like, I made a Hunter because that was the first tune that I made. And in a sense, they were kind of right, because you really do have to go through and bust your ass. I mean, it's not like you have to worry about XP and shit, but there are other things that kind of fill in those gaps. And that is farming the chest. It is having to run those dungeons and lose those freaking rolls. Like, God forbid, I wasn't in it personally, but I saw a screenshot, I think it was put on TI, where a dude was running, Shadowfang dropped, a Warlock won the roll. Sends a whisper. It was like, basically, I've been running this for the past 2 months of my life. Can I please have it? And he's like, equipped, bruh. I'm like, oh, jeez. You're like Marv, but worse.
Oh my, dang. Hope Marv's not in the chat right now. He's gonna be salty.
But yeah, I mean, it's a super cool thing.
I have a lot of love for my free-to-play tunes, making a point, and I guess bringing it back is, I would say, absolutely. Like, hey, my favorite class that I played this expansion's Druid, but do I love my Druid as a character? Hell no, I don't love my Druid as a character. I had an opportunity. I spent 159k gold to buy a Tabard of Brilliance, or a Tabard of the Defender, and I put it on my fucking Warrior, and I don't even touch my Warrior, my 19 Warrior, and I put on my 19 Warrior just because it looks really cool, and in bear form, you know, I don't care about having a Tabard on my 19 Druid because I'm in bear form or some sort of form half the time. Like, who gives a shit? No one's gonna see your Tabard. Like, it's not like it's a napkin on your fucking, like, bear's handkerchief. Like, he's not wiping it when he's in bear form, you know what I'm saying? So there's, like, I don't want to have, like, I don't have that kind of investment into some of my newer tunes. I would say that there are still ways that you can have that investment, but they've just, how the game has been reshaped with the progression of expansions. Man, I would say, you know, that AP Hunter that goes for the full gear, gets his full AP set, he's going to feel a lot better about that tune than the guy with the generic set. Even though he might have spent a lot of money, and it might not even always be the best time to use that AP set, that tune is going to mean more to him because he invested more into it. And the ways that you invest into your tune now have shifted, in my opinion, from being time-consuming to being money-consuming.
Well, I think this might be a good place to shift to where I start being hypocritical, but I want to put this out beforehand just to emphasize the amount of a hypocrite I'm going to be.
Oh my god, okay.
UB is by far and away like the tune that I value the most, and it is 100% because I've put the most work into him. I have
39? 29.
39, and the 29 one is actually the second, who is now 30, who may become a 39 Arsham at some point. But yes, I mean, those are my two favorites. But like, I have stuff on UB the 39 that most people just don't have or won't ever have, and I'm like, it gives you this certain sense of, hey man, that's kind of freaking cool, right? But at the same time, when I go to make a new tune, I don't ever ever want to go through that again. I do not want to run Rev, and this is without exaggeration. I mean months upon months trying to get one set of gloves only to get them the day after they become obsolete. Like, I don't ever want to do that again.
Oh.
I like the fact now that if I want to play 19s, I can have Dids hook me up with gear and enchants. I run a couple dungeons, and I am able to join the bracket, be geared adequately. If not, actually, Dids made me best in slot, so shout out to Dids there. And I can go in there and do my thing. It's like, maybe I'm letting it down, but the gear isn't the thing that's holding it down. You know, it's the gear is there and it's proper.
Right. And there's a bit of money put into it, but it's nothing hard to obtain, and it gets you playing. It gets you in the action. It gets you in a bracket where people have similar builds, and it's not as big of a deal. And I actually think, just because of, like, we've talked about how scaling's been adjusted, I think for the most part there's not really that big of items anymore. I can think of a few caveats, like 13 spell power to bracer is a big deal at 19. Some of the shoulder and head enchants
thing, you know, it's not something that someone can get now, no matter what the effort they put in. That is taken off, you know, your proverbial XP off table.
Well, theoretically. I mean, I'm not going to go down that line.
Well, yes. I mean, if you have enough gold, I'm sure someone will part with, let's say, unearthed bracers of agility, or maybe if Rise is feeling super generous, we'll do a podcast where we give away a green lens of, I don't know, the monkey or something.
For me, I agree with you, man. Like, for how much effort I put into a lot of my free-to-play tunes, my free-to-play warrior is at the top. I just love that guy. I love my free-to-play druid a lot, too. I just have so much more respect for when I play those tunes, because I realize how much time and effort went into them to get them where they are. But it's not to say that, you know, I'm not... Hey, I barely play my 20s nowadays. Like, you know, it's not what I'm playing. It's just not... Right now, that bracket's not for me. It's just not, you know... I want to be in a little more balanced atmosphere. Something a little bit more competitive.
So would it be fair, this is a phrase that Rise and I have used a lot, and it's rose-colored glasses. It's when you look back on what you've done, you kind of tend to focus on what's good about it. And by what's good about it, like, when you look back on it, what you like about it right now. You forget about all the negatives associated with it.
Right.
Like, if you wanted to make a 19 right now, do you really want to worry about, dude, if I pick that flower, it's going to give me some experience? Oh, if I don't properly align that questing, oh, geez, I'm going to hit 20. I'm never going to get that piece of gear.
De-leveled.
Well, yes, that's a complete other thing, and yes.
Yeah.
Let's not include that, even though I guess, yeah, no.
No, I just meant, like, the accessibility, like, now, too, where it's like, oh, even if you do level, oh, you can get de-leveled.
Yeah.
It's not that big a deal. It's just, like, right, it just takes away some of the, I don't know. There's something to be said about that.
So, but
and I think
also,
that there's people that'll fall on both sides of the fence. There'll be people that
but
say...
think about where we're at right now as sort of, and this is not bracket specific, I mean as an XP off community. If you had the same constraints in gearing to make a tune as you did back in the pre-3.2 days, do you think any bracket would really have new blood?
I don't know. I would say probably not. And I know that maybe there's some people out there that maybe a handful of people would have stayed, really didn't like the new meta, and maybe have moved on to private servers or other things, other games, because of those changes. But I don't think enough to the point where, like, we'd be having a Twink Cup, where we'd be having tournaments, we'd be having multiple active communities popping at the same time. I think it would have dwindled down. I think there'd be less interest. Getting newer players would be harder. So yeah, I think that the way the game has progressed it's been fine with me. Hey man, I like being able to have, I've got, I'm not going to say I sit here and I play all my level 19s, but I have somewhere between like 12 and 15 19s I can log on and send over BOAs, and they're good enough to play in Gulch. And there's something to be said about that.
And let's say, we're back in the days where we had to walk uphill to queue for Gulch and walk back uphill to go buy our gear or whatever, or go enchant or fix our gear. Like, do you think you'd have that many tunes? Do you think you'd have the flexibility to queue both Horde and Alliance, have best in slot tunes? Do you think there'd be enough other people to keep that going? And that's something that I feel is kind of lost when people are considering and discussing how easy it is to obtain gear. Because yes, as we've discussed, and as I said, why it's going to make me kind of sound like a hypocrite, where like, I miss Underworld bands. Manger and I used to literally check the auction house 5 fucking times a day so we could find that one Underworld band for 5 gold, because we were habitually broke. And we had to fund like an entire guild ourselves, and like Rise was a helper too. And like we'd go there and we'd always look for the deals. And it was a super cool feeling when we'd find it. We get it for us. We get it for other people.
Right.
But now you don't have to do that. If someone wants to come and roll a 3rd and 9 on Airy Peak, another shameless pub. If you want to do a healer, it's just run some SM. You can get your enchants. You're good. It's not like this waiting game of, oh, dude, we have to find this. We got to get you that. Scaling will take care of things. The enchants, you got a little bit of leeway there. But I get why people are upset about it being taken away as far as, like, the meaning of gear and stuff. But I feel like if it was so difficult to still get gear, I'm not sure you and I would be doing this podcast. I'm not sure people would be in Twitch right now listening and communicating with each other. And I don't think anyone would be downloading on iTunes later, because I'm not sure there'd be any brackets left to play.
Yeah, man, no, there's something to be said about that, dude. I agree, man. We've moved to an era in World of Warcraft that's been shifting over the past 3 or 4 expansions where... Now, this is something that we should really talk about. It wasn't really done for 19's sake. It was done for, leveling easier. Being able to grind out the levels to max level. Shortening the XP gaps between levels. Giving you more BOAs. Giving you more bonuses to get to endgame. But all of this still affected our bracket and play. So every time they had a BOA, it's easier to get to 19. Every time they had a BOA, it's easier to gear a 19, because they're just really good pieces of gear at this level. They give you more stats. They give you secondary stats that are viable. It's just more well-rounded.
Well, what about this, Buns? The fact that you can create multiple BOAs. Just click of a button, snap of the fingers, and you can have multiple sets straight through that. So it's not like, say, back in the old day where, let's use the Hunter as the example. It's like, I would punch babies for Bracers of the Falcon. Or Gloves of the Falcon, or the Monkey variants. Like, they're so hard to come by. You would actually find people transferring servers and paying a ton of money for green Bracers or green Gloves.
It's crazy. Crazy. It is. And I mean, there's something to be said for that. I guess we're starting to going in circles here. I'm happy with where the game has progressed. I think it's opened other avenues, and we can talk about that. I think it's opened other avenues where, rather than spending time sitting there having to gear your tune, getting best in slot, now you have time to actually just jump in the game, start working on your mechanics, start figuring out what's going on, how you play the battleground, what can you do differently. And that sounds a little bit redundant and kind of...
It's not at all,
an obscure point, but it's not. Because people have more time to actually get in the game, figure out what they're doing, figure out what strats work, figure out team compositions. I mean, think about where just 19s have gone from the beginning of MOP to the end of... to the present. How about the present?
Well, it's...
Post-second Twin Cup. I mean, you're talking about a bracket that went from heavy casters, Warrior FC, not really dedicating to stopping the FC from picking, all about mid-control, to Druid FC being introduced, people running around the map, yada yada, to now being able to incorporate offense, defense, midfield, map presence, certain situations, 25-second res timers.
Or awareness, I'm sorry.
Awareness of the map. And it's not to be said that those things can't happen organically, couldn't happen normally, couldn't happen. They could have happened if the gear stayed the same. They might have happened. There's no way it would have happened at the rate, though, because less people would be playing. There'd be less incentive for people to try out the bracket and gear up tunes, because you have to have grandfather gear, and gearing your tune would be more difficult. So less people would be playing, less people have an influence on the bracket. There would be less people that would be incentivized to, or more people that would be spending time getting geared than they would actually be playing the game. So the caliber and quality of gameplay has been increased by people having the accessibility to BOAs, being able to just hop in, get going, keep it moving. And that's not something that I don't think we've touched on before, but it is a very valid point where, you know, you're going to get good at and you're going to get rewarded for things that you put time into.
Well, and it's almost like it's the expedience of evolution by removing a constraining factor. And that gear is no longer something that you have to spend a crap ton of time on.
Yeah.
You can get your gear relatively quickly, and then you can focus on how you play that fully geared tune in the Gulch. Whereas, if we're going, you know, back to expansions past and stuff, I mean, if you saw someone that had a fishing hat or, like, net paggles, or, like, any of those things, it's like, well, that dude's obviously good because he took the time to farm that gear. But that doesn't mean the dude took the time to learn how to play his class.
Yes.
It just means he took the time to get the gear.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I find very interesting. And if you don't want to move this far and you want to save this for another cast, or if you have other places you want to go, as we move forward to Legion, it's the model of that seems to be we're going to give each tune kind of a sheet. And that sheet is going to determine what each class does. Gear will have a minimal impact, but it's not going to be the determining factor in how you play a class. Because right now, if you're playing, I mean, what would be one of the most obvious examples? A 29 BM, 29 Feral. You get one of those properly geared, you can run through the Gulch and you can feel like a god among men. It does not matter if you're actually that good. You just have the gear in the class to carry you. And if you want to take it back to basically the beginning of Warcraft times, be a hunter. Except for I think there was a brief moment where it kind of switched. But like a lot of these things, people would play these classes and they're like, yo bro, #1 on the board, highest kill death ratio, I'm doing so much damage. It's like, yes you are. You're absolutely right. But what
40-yard range drop shot, bro.
Right. What did you actually put in to achieve that? Because I guarantee you that mage that was maybe 5 spots under you put in a significantly more amount of work. We're not talking about gear here in the work. We're talking about skill in playing the class. And to me at least, and I feel, well, you've already said you feel the same way, it should be how you play the tune that is the determining factor, and not the gear of which the tune is using to say, oh dude, I'm awesome. Or I just run this BG shit. I mean, this is PvP, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, sorry, yeah, yes, yeah, it is. Oh man, that cut you off a rant. I didn't mean to. I was just like, I was actually really engaged. I really liked where you were going there. Fuck, I guess I'll pick it up.
Yeah,
alright, fuck. Man, you hit about 5 points there, and I had to say something about number 2, and now I forgot what that was.
Oh, Jesus. You act like I know.
you know, I think that there's something to be said as well, too, where I think now we've shifted a little bit more into where it used to be where gear used to matter a lot. Gear doesn't matter that much anymore. But now I think that class is mattering more, what class you're playing. And that's partially, I think, to people realizing, oh, hey, we all have like the same gear. Let's figure out what classes are just the best classes to play and play those classes because they're more strong.
Mm-hmm.
29 BM Monk. Oh. Huh. Guard.
Oh, someone can kill me 6 times and I'm still okay? Well,
Yeah.
alright.
And I can stack full AP and I get more shielding? What? Hello? One time, please? But yeah, so I think that there's, you know, where there's been changes in one area, there's been shifts. When there's been changes in the gear, there's also been shifts in classes. But I've also think that that's always been a factor. It's just that the farther you look back on the totem pole, the less damage there was, the less burst there was.
Well,
And the farther you get along, too, with having more BOAs, having this more obtainable gear, having the expansions increase, the health pools increase, you know, the burst has changed.
This is what's crazy. Going back to Wrath Post 3.2, when I was playing in the 19 bracket, like if I was going max AP, and for you guys that don't know, there was this ability called Aim Shot that turned your intellect into, I believe, attack power, because hunters usually use mana. So I'd run with like a cajillion mana, like 2k mana and like a 900 health. And I'd actually stay alive the entire BG. Like I died like twice. So think about the change just in the amount of damage done. I mean, you have if I say I was running with 1,000 health right now as a hunter in 19s, how long would it take me to die, Buns?
If you're playing 119.
Oh, wait, EPH, yeah, careful aim, I'm sorry.
If you're playing a hunter at 19, how long would it take you to die?
Well, no, if I was saying playing... Alright, maybe I didn't phrase that properly. Like, just to illustrate the change in the way gearing, skills, abilities, and everything. You could play back in Wrath. I mean, I would not suggest playing as low as I did, but it was just kind of fun. But like you play like say 12 to 1300 would be average, right?
Yeah.
A druid would look at you, rub his butt against your face, fart, and you'd be dead. Like,
yeah.
That's kind of giving some sort of, I guess, emphasis on how much stuff has changed.
It really has, man. I would say that and then we're talking about, we say all of this, we talk about all of this, and then we have Legion just around the corner. Oh, shoot, I totally remember what I was going to say.
I don't know, Rise just said double cheek proc to the druid bear butt, and I thought that was worth bringing up.
Double cheek. Oh my god.
Well played, Rise.
I'm going to make a comment before I go on my little bit of a Legion rant. So, one of the games, this is not World of Warcraft, well, it's kind of World of Warcraft related. One of the games that I love watching, but I don't play, is I love watching League of Legends. And I love watching League of Legends because it's so similar to how current Warsong Gulch is. It's scary, because it's all about map control, knowing where people are, knowing how you can take advantage of those situations. Now, I will go a lot, you know, the mechanics of League of Legends are way harder than the mechanics of 19s. Not even close. I mean, not even in the same ballpark. The mechanics of League of Legends are just on a different level. But at the core of situations and how things evolve, I like where League of Legends has kind of implemented their own style, in the sense that we're going to put you in a PvP situation where everyone's going to start off at the same level. The differences between I would say League of Legends and World of Warcraft is I say that builds are significant in League of Legends. And you can scale. I mean, everyone starts at the same level, and it very much depends on how you play.
But they have the gear shit and the last hit for gold to get the gear, and yeah.
Right, but like even think about it this way too, right? We've had the 25-second res timer introduced too, so that kind of reminds me as well of being punished for actually dying in pre-mates, and that's kind of like League of Legends. You die in League of Legends, your timer starts shooting up.
Yeah,
you're going to be sitting on a longer res, and it's a big deal. You start snowballing. But the difference between, I think, well, I mean, there's a lot of differences, but one of the biggest differences between League of Legends and a Warsong Gulch style for me is League of Legends kind of allows you in that specific game to create and morph and mold your build for that game to benefit you for the classes and champions that you're playing against if you know what you're doing. If you understand, okay, I'm going to benefit more in this game from having extra magic resistance because they have champions on this team that are going to be killing me on spell damage or ability power, I think it's called. They're going to be killing me on ability power, so I need some magic resistance or whatnot to compensate for this. I can go with this item here, and it's still going to give me some strong attack power, but instead of going health, I'm going to get magic resistance here. So, for me, that sounds a little bit weird, and I've been a little bit on a League of Legends rave recently with the LCS coming up, with the CLG win over TSM. Goddamn,
dude,
the
3-0. Fantasy League of Legends League. I thought that was one of the greatest things I've seen introduced into esports in a long time.
Really? I haven't checked that out. I don't know if I'm going to get into that, but anyways, we'll see. I might have a look. But I guess my idea was, right? So in 19s, there's kind of a similar process, but it's not with like your build. But you can kind of adjust your play style, things that you do differently to compensate against other teams. You can adjust maybe a little bit of what gear you're wearing. Maybe you're wearing extra stamina and pre-mates, having a Tyranny, making a choice over a Tyranny over an AGM for the more on-use benefit, yada yada. But it's limited in the customization that you can do from a gearing perspective, which I think is for what World of Warcraft is. I think that's fine. That's perfectly fine, to be honest. It's just really interesting that the game has allowed itself to get to a point where we can start thinking about these things. And it's not even necessarily about the game, but it's also about the game giving players the opportunity to put the time in to have these opportunities.
Well, you know what I think too? Like, if we're going to be talking about the legions and the templates and stuff like that, it's going to introduce a very fundamental question, and that's, why do you twink? Do you twink for the PvP aspect? Do you twink for what XBOF has become, and that's the hope of a competitive game of people on equal footing? Do you twink for the old reason? And not everyone fits this, but as we saw in the fact that we have to schedule games, a lot of fucking people did, and that a lot of people twinked to, I hate fucking using this word, to pwn, bro.
Pwn.
Or do you twink for achievements, to be the level 10 with the highest number of achievements possible? Or do you twink to get these crazy gear that no one should ever have at your level? And it's going to, I think, create a division amongst the people that do play XBOF, that it's like, well, if my gear's not going to matter, why the fuck am I going to twink? And to me, I'm like, well, why the fuck should gear matter at all? Like, to me, it's, we want to get in the most balanced game possible. But I also understand the fact that, and this is where the hypocrite comes in with the, I can't believe Underworld bands still aren't the best, that sometimes the gear kind of feels good to have. But corollary to that, you can still get that gear. You can still queue in, and this is assuming Legion goes through the way we are assuming, and it's a whole lot of assumptions, so take this with grains of salt. That you can still go ahead and you can get the gear that no one else has and makes you a badass. I dare one of you other people to get a fez cap. You won't. But, like, you can still have that stuff, so when you log in, it's like, oh, you got some badass transmog, man. Like, that gear you have, how long did it take you to run 1,000 Needles? Took me about 6 days. A bottle of booze. I lost my left leg. But god damn it, I got that robe 1,000 motherfucking needles. Like, I mean, you can still do that stuff, and you can still have it there, but it's not gonna have, like, a noticeable effect to BGs. And to me, I think that's great. Like, you could just, everyone could be in there and be on an equal footing. But that also, I mean, just to bring back to the start, why do you twink? And there are so many different answers that it's tough to satisfy everyone, or even to quant or qualify each.
All right, I gotta take the floor. I've been holding back for a little bit.
Take it!
Okay, this might be a wrap-up. I'm feeling like a burrito. I'm getting all my ingredients.
Sure we're about an hour and a half, so
it's
getting close.
Throw on some double chicken. Gonna throw on some steak, maybe. Put some rice, beans, a little salsa. Just wrap it up.
Gross. Put some rice.
All right. Anyways, this entire conversation, and especially looking to the future a little bit in Legion, where we're looking at gear maybe mattering, maybe not mattering at all. It could matter a lot. Depends what they do. And I think it's really interesting because this entire conversation has been talking about, we've talked about from past to today, the shift between people coming to a bracket for XP off to get their tune geared out, to pwn, to have the best items, to have items no one else has, to getting just every little inch of stats that they can manage, to slowly that being taken away and that being diminished by BOAs, the accessibility of getting gear, other items becoming best in slot, scaling being introduced, and all these things have slowly diminished from taking that away and making it a more fair level playing field for everyone, to make it so that people can join a game and they might not have the best gear, but it's going to be reasonable because of scaling and because of everything going on. The entire, you know, we've gone from a tire aspect to where gear is everything to gear means very little. And there's still, I would still say that there's some benefit.
Shift.
Yeah, there's still some benefits from having all best in slot gear right now, but it's greatly diminished from where it has been and where it's peaked before. And now we're looking at going into Legion, where gear might not matter at all, at the very worst. Or best, depending how you look at it.
And that is true. There are two very distinct points of view. Like,
right.
For you and I, it's okay, that's not the end of the world. But for other people, it is legitimately the end of the twink world. And I would feel like an asshole if I'm like, dude, fuck you, it's all about the PvP, because that's not just the way it is. Like, twinking means different things to different people.
Right. And I guess finishing off what I had to say is that if you have... No, that's not the right way to say, man. The game has changed, and the people that are still around, they're still here for a reason. I don't think twinking is going to go away unless they really just deny twinking from existing. I don't think it ever will. There may be people who come, there may be people who go because of changes. I don't think twinking will ever go away. I think twinking might be one of those things that's just the bare bones of World of Warcraft when everything's all said and done.
Well, you know what? It's, deep breath. Whew. Ali B. Boba said actually something really smart on TI. Twinking, and I'm going to paraphrase here, it's not exactly, but twinking will find a way. Or what Rise and I always say, the ingenuity of Twinks basically holds no bounds. You can throw at us the most ridiculous shit, and we figure out a way to make it work. Like, what's more ridiculous than Crusader stacking at 19s? Well, not a fucking lot, but if you're going to run a tournament, you're going to figure out a way to make it work in the confines of what you're trying to do. And that is one of the nice things that we have, and one of the nice things that we're able to do, because we in fact are a community. So I don't know if you have anything else, or we should just go to the plugs, or...
You know, I think we wrapped up with some pretty nice thoughts there. I was trying to think of anything else I had to say. I'm sure as soon as we hit record, hit the stop button, I'm going to be sitting here and banging my computer.
I feel like this could be a four-parter, to be completely honest.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground, and to be fair, this is a pretty meaty cast, but I think it was worth the talk. It was worth the explanation. It was worth really grinding through, getting all details out, because the game evolves,
changed.
and those that are interested are going to continue playing, and those that aren't are not going to continue playing. The game is morphing into an atmosphere that is easier for people to join, I would say.
It is, and going way back to the start, it's like, is the gearing process being harder or more difficult, better or worse for XP off brackets? Completely depends upon your point of view, but I'm not sure at this stage. It's so easy to gear tunes and other facets of the game that you'd have people willing to join if it shared the difficulty of a long time expansion ago.
I'm good, man. Good stuff.
All right, what's your song? I just remembered that, and I did not think of one, but...
So you just threw it on me?
Of course, man. I always take the shout-out first.
Let's go Black and Yellow by Josh Vietti. I think that's a great song.
All right,
Josh Vietti's got some good skills.
You know what? Since we're talking about people being angry about their tombs dying and not having gearing, I will go even if... Oh, no. 1,000 deaths. No. Hold on. Yeah, let's go even if Method Man. Alright, guys, give it a 5 or 10 minute break. I'm going to shut down stream. There's a chance Rise, Primal, and I will be starting up a Hearthstone stream for the new expansion. So, hang out. We'll see you in a little bit.